So your phone's ringing off the hook, and it's marketers that are cold calling you. You've probably hired a couple of them, and it didn't work, so we lost thousands of dollars. And if it did work, and the leads started to come in, they weren't the high-ticket remodeling jobs that actually moved the needle in your business. If that's the case, this video was made specifically for you. My name is Ben, owner of Maps Machine, and I've been doing the whole local marketing thing for about the last decade of my life. And over the years, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of local marketers talking to local companies. And those local companies, you've probably heard about the whole helping plumbers rank in the top or electricians. What I've learned is that almost nobody is helping remodelers figure out how to get the high ticket work. There's lots of people talking to general contractors, but there's nobody helping the remodeler, the person who just wants to do remodeling. And that's where I saw the biggest opportunity in helping people get those leads. Because when you apply those general marketing principles that would work for a general contractor to a remodeler, what you end up getting is leads that suck, no leads at all, and a bunch of wasted money to a marketer. And this is why I started Maps Machine and did this whole thing. And in the last year, we've helped over 100 remodeling companies fix this very specific problem. Maybe they're getting some leads, but they're not very good, or they're getting no leads because Google doesn't know what they do, or even worse, they've hired tons of different marketing companies that promise lead flow, but they've never actually figured it out. Like Tyler from Anchor Custom Bath. He came to us after, I don't know, hundreds of marketing cold calls. I mean, you know how it is. Just tons of marketers calling you. And every single time you pick up the phone, you hope it's a lead, but it's just some guy saying, hey, do you want to buy some SEO? And you can barely understand him. Yeah, so that was him. And after 30 days of implementing our system, he went from getting 0 calls to about 2 calls a week of quality, inbound, custom bathroom jobs, and he ended up closing 3 in that first 30 days. Or maybe you're more like Byron from NorCal Exterior, where instead of just hearing those cold calls, you actually hired some of those marketers. And he's been through, 6, 7 actual marketing companies, and none of them were actually able to get the phone ringing. Once we implemented our entire system for him, he has been booked out for the next 6 months with work, and not just the crappy work. I know everybody says they're booked out, but he's booked out with the work that's highly profitable and good for his company. Or maybe you're like Casa Homes, where they did hire a marketer and they were getting leads, but they weren't the type of leads that were actually moving the needle for the business. He's a remodeling company, but he was doing a lot of smaller work, or he was kind of living off of the word of mouth pipeline. And when he came to us, what we did is we implemented our system, and now he's getting about 4 calls per week on specifically the bathroom, kitchen, and full home jobs for remodeling. These 3 companies all share one thing in common. They're all remodeling companies. They're not general contractors that say yes to everything. They're not local contractors that are just going to live off of referral work. These are business owners who are trying to grow remodeling businesses. And if that's you, then this video is built and made for you. So now that we've got that out of the way, the big difference between just implementing a local marketing strategy, kind of like a generic blanket one, and one that actually works to bring in remodeling jobs, it's all going to come down to the strategy. And there's some key points that you need to understand that would literally prevent you from success, even if I were to wave my magic SEO wand and my company were to bippity-boppity leads you. There are some things that would just straight up prevent you from success if they weren't taken care of in the beginning. So the first thing we need to do is understand the strategy and make some pretty big decisions. But before we get into those things, I want to go over something called the Remodeler Trap. The Remodeler Trap is something that we at Maps Machine created because so many remodeling companies were falling into it. And let me just walk you through it really quickly. Let me introduce you to Mike, a remodeler. Well, he likes to think he's a remodeler. He's a general contractor, and he kind of says yes to everything that comes in. The first error is that he's a general contractor. And because he's a general contractor, he has to say yes to everything that comes in. Now, once you're a general contractor and you say yes to everything that comes in, well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the most consistent work. And more importantly, if you're too busy doing all this work of stuff that just is coming in, you're not going to be in the right position to say yes to the big jobs that actually come in. And because you're not in the position to say yes to the big jobs that are coming in, you're now going to be unable to get specific reviews behind the type of work you actually want to do. And because you're unable to get the specific type of reviews, well, you're a general contractor, and the cycle repeats itself. This is why we call this the Remodeler Trap. General contractors almost always have one big complaint, is that even when the leads do come in, those leads always complain about price. They negotiate with you on price, they argue with you on the job quality, or maybe they tell you that they just want help with materials and they've already taken care of most of the labor, or vice versa, where they just want help with the labor, they've already got the materials. These are the types of jobs that don't really move the needle for your business. They might pay your payroll for a couple of weeks, but they're not actually going to move the needle. They're not going to allow you to progress as a business owner. And this is why we call it the remodeler trap. And this is what keeps so many remodeling companies from actually becoming a remodeling company. They're just general contractors. And again, if that's the type of business you want to build and that's the lifestyle you want, all power to you. This just is not the video for you. What this video and what this strategy is built to do is we're going to make some big decisions that are going to help you get out of the remodeler trap. So you can actually bring in the big jobs that don't hate you or change your whole life based on price. And more importantly, you can provide them a life-changing service for a price that's actually going to move the needle for your business. So in order to do this, in order to get out of the remodeling trap, we need to make the first strategic decision, which is, what type of remodeling company are you? Now, I want to help you understand why this is so important. A lot of people, when I say this question, they're like, oh, we'll do any type of remodeling job. And they think that that's niching down enough. Well, let me ask you a question, and let me use the example of my wife. Let's say my wife goes to her friend's house. My wife goes to her friend's house and sees a really pretty kitchen, and she loves their kitchen. So she goes back to our home and goes to Google's AI mode, or Grok, or Claude, or ChatGPT, any of the AIs. And she types in, I want a kitchen like this, and she uploads a picture of her friend's kitchen. Well, she then has a short and brief conversation with AI, and she's learning a whole bunch about kitchen remodeling. She's learning about what types of tiles should use and what she shouldn't use. And eventually she starts to learn a little bit more about cost. Well, let's say that she's okay with that cost. So now she's trying to figure out what to do next. And AI does what AI always does, which is, do you want me to help you find someone in your local market that can help you? We call those AI recommendations. So AI is now going to recommend a local company to my wife. Very powerful, because again, she's already been pre-qualified. She's had that whole conversation with AI about getting a kitchen remodel done. Now, the reason why this is important and comes back to this idea of niching down is because who do you think AI is going to recommend more? A general contractor, a remodeler, or a kitchen remodeler? AI is always going to pick the most relevant solution. And if my wife's had a whole conversation about kitchen remodeling with this AI, well, AI is going to recommend the kitchen remodeler. Does that make sense? So the whole point of this first strategic decision, and again, if you don't make this decision, you can turn off the video, you can leave. This video is not for you. But if you're ready to get these bigger jobs, we need to categorize. We need to tell Google, we need to tell the internet, we need to tell our customers what type of work we do. And I'm sure a whole bunch of thoughts come to your mind right now. Like, oh my gosh, well, if I recategorize as a kitchen remodeling company, then what'll happen to all my other work? Great question. And generally, that work will continue to come in because, well, you're already ranking in Google for whatever you're doing right now, and your referrals are not going to just magically stop working with you because you recategorize. They're working with you because you're you. That's why referrals are powerful. They're not really going to care about your company. They're going to care about your name and who you are. So when it comes to recategorizing, we're doing this primarily for your internet presence. We're trying to build a local reputation that is actually narrow, that people would actually resonate with. This is the primary thing that allowed us to generate results for Tyler. He was a general contractor before he came to us from Anchor Custom Bath. And you'll notice that the name that I just said, his name before working with us was not Anchor Custom Bath. We helped him recognize in his business that bathroom remodeling was a good priority for him. And then we built him a whole online presence about bathroom remodeling. If you want us to do that for you, you can just grab that link and book a call with my team. We'll do it for you. Or doing it on your own, what you need to do is you need to actually recategorize. We need to literally change everything towards that name of the business. I know that niching down can be scary. I want you to understand how important this decision is. I've been doing this for a decade and worked with hundreds of local remodeling companies. And after trying to do the whole general thing, like some clients have come to me and said, Ben, we're not comfortable with niching down. We want to be the general contractor. Can you make it work? And because it was early in my career, I gave that a test. It didn't work. The client ended up hating me, and that's why I don't do that anymore. If you want to get the really high ticket, great remodeling jobs that are out there, you have to niche down. Because who do you think my wife is going to choose? The general contractor who does everything, or the kitchen remodeler who's a specialist at what she's looking for? This is less about ranking. and more about who my wife is going to pick for this high quality job. Now that we've understood and hopefully you've chosen a niche to actually play in, because again, I don't want you to advance until we figure that out. So once we've picked a niche that we want to play in, I want to go into the other cardinal sins that will prevent you, straight up prevent you from getting good leads in. And a lot of people are probably sitting out there like, oh, well, I've had good leads. I'm talking about specifically from Google. I want inbound leads, people calling your business that don't already know you to call you. And in order to do that, we have to specialize, and then we're going to talk about the 4 sins that we need to get rid of. First, let's talk about names, or rather, DBAs. A lot of people hear this and they're like, I have to change the name of my business. Well, consider this.
This is exactly what a DBA is and why I ask you to consider getting one. So let's say I start a remodeling company, but when I sat down to start this remodeling company, I didn't necessarily sit down and consider all of the implications of my name. I knew that it was important, but I didn't know how important. So I picked something somewhat general, something that could apply to all the different types of work I do. Let's say Ben's Renovation, right? Ben, my name, followed by renovation. Sounds like a good company name. Years pass and I'm doing all this work. Well, after learning about how SEO works and how search engines and AI and all of these online tools recommend your business to a potential customer, turns out that the name actually plays a pretty decent role. So what a DBA is, or rather that stands for doing business as, is we're basically creating another alias that your business can legally go by. And the reason why this matters is you can't just go on Google and change your Google business profile name. That's against their terms of service and their policy, can get you into a lot of trouble. What we do is we go to your local government, and in most states this costs like 20 or 30 bucks. I know that some states like California can be a little bit more confusing than that, but you go on to the local government registry where you got your LLC or where you started your company. Maybe you're a sole proprietor and you haven't built an LLC yet. Well, in that case, you should go start an LLC. The DBA is basically another name that your company can go by.
Right now, the name of your business is like Ben's Contracting or Ben Construction, right? My name, Construction, whatever it may be. Does that name necessarily scream credibility when it comes to bathroom remodeling? Not necessarily. And because doing business as names, or DBAs, are so easy to file, 99% of the time, doing a quick DBA is going to help you tell your customer and Google that you've specialized. So this is the next cardinal sin, is it's much harder to rank a company named Ben's Contracting to be a bathroom remodeler, instead of doing a DBA and having Ben's Bathroom Remodeling be the name of the Google business profile. So this is the first cardinal sin. I want your name, or your doing business as, to literally match the category that we're searching for. This gives your customer and Google a really high level of confidence that you actually specialize in what you're telling them that you specialize in. Again, think about it from the customer's perspective. You're searching on Google and you have to pick between Ben's Remodeling, Chad's Construction, or local bathroom remodeler, whatever the brand name is there. What I'm really talking about is, can you see the difference here? These are generic companies that kind of sound like they do everything. This one does not sound very generic. So that's the first thing we want to look at.
The first thing we have to do is log into the Google Business Profile. The fastest way to do that is just to type in Google Business Profile into Google. And you'll see that I'm logged in over here on Google Chrome. That's an important little distinction. Make sure you're logged in using Google Chrome when you're managing Google services. Otherwise, maybe you're using like the Yahoo browser or Safari. I would heavily push you to log into Google Chrome. It's free. You can download Google Chrome. And then you log into your Google account, which I am right now, ben@mapsmachine.com. And you'll see that I have access to profiles right here just by typing in Google Business Profile. So I went ahead and found mine. I click on View Profile and it takes you here. So this is my Google Business Profile. Now, what we talked about in the video up until this point is the category, specializing into that category, and making real change. So, for example, I'm going to pretend like I am turning my Maps Machine remodeling company into Maps Machine Bathroom Remodeling. Now, where we make those changes, on your Google Business Profile, you'll see this little section right here that says Edit Profile. Click that. When you click that, right here at the top are 3 of the most important pieces. You'll not ignore these little orange bubbles. That's a little SEO tool I use. Now, under business name, this is really easy. Now, very key here. Do not change the business name until you actually file your DBA. So go to your local government website, file a quick DBA. So in this case, I would go to my Utah government website and type in Maps Machine Bathroom Remodeling. And that would be my new DBA. It costs like 30 bucks. Once that gets officially filed, I would go into this business name section. I would type in Maps Machine Bathroom Remodeling, and then press save.
Second, addresses. Now remember, everything that we've talked about so far is to help your customer and Google Both determine if you're actually a helpful, local, relevant company to what people are looking for. The next thing on this list being addresses is important. So important, in fact, that if you were to call me right now and say, Ben, please take my money and do this for me, and you didn't have a business address, we would turn you away, unless you were willing to go get one. And the big thing here is that an address is going to tell Google exactly where you're located. It's going to tell your customer that you're local. A lot of people, when I say this, they're like, well, Ben, I'm a construction company that works out of my home office. Well, cool. I get it. And the problem is Google no longer allows you to verify your Google business profile with a home address. So if you're sitting out there with a verified home address, note that Google banned like millions of profiles last year. I don't want that to be you. And if you don't have an office address or if you don't have a verified profile, this is the primary reason that's actually holding you back from getting results. Because if you were to go right now to Google, let's go to Google right now and just type in bathroom remodeling and then I'll type in my city. When I type this in and I click on the top 3, do you see how these 3 have actual addresses? And that's because I typed in my area, or rather near me. Google is going to give me, the customer, it's going to send me to companies that Google knows are local. Because again, I'm a customer, I'm coming to Google and saying, hey, help me find someone that can help me. And Google is not going to send me to some company that has this random service area. Even if I'm technically inside that service area, Google wants me to give me to the nearest, to the most relevant person that can help me. So if you go to Google and you do that search just like I did, and the top 3 don't have addresses, well, you're in luck. You might not need an address, but if you got one, it would accelerate your success. Whereas if you're looking at those top 3 and you are seeing a lot of addresses, you need an address. And this is why it's straight up a pre-qualifier for our service. Like I said, if you want to work with us, give us a call. But when it comes to actually working with us in the service that we provide, or rather doing this yourself, you need an address. It is one of the most vital pieces that a lot of SEO companies hate to talk about because it's a lot of work. You have to go scope out an office space. You have to go see if it's going to work for you. But I want to be very specific here and give you just a quick couple of hacks that will allow you to get an office space without getting the wrong one. First, let's make sure you understand what consists of an address. Google does not allow home addresses. They do not allow you the shed in the back of your yard. They don't allow your garage. It cannot be a residential address. Second, they don't allow PO boxes. And this is a change that happened in the last year or 2 with the rise of AI. Google is really trying to make sure that their data is super accurate. And you can't go to an office tour inside of a PO box. So that doesn't work. And then lastly, this actually has to be something that you have access to. So you can't just go into your friend's office that he already has a Google business profile attached to and just decide to verify it. You have to have what's called private access. So you have to be able to walk in and unlock the office. Now, how do you find an office without charging $1 bajillion or losing a ton of money? Well, the room I'm sitting in right now, I found on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm subleasing it from some goober that signed way too long of a lease. Thereby, I got a way cheaper rent and a verifiable Google business location, which is the first place I recommend you look. Go to Facebook Marketplace and see if you can find a cheap sublease. It's what we tell our clients to do. It's what I'll tell you to do. Now, once you have an address, what you need to do is actually use that address on your Google business profile for something called verification. And that verification you've probably heard about before, or you've tried doing before, where Google makes you walk around with a camera and like prove that you have the office. You're gonna need to do that again. And attached to this document, when you signed up to view this masterclass, you're also gonna get an email with a couple of helpful guides. One of them is gonna be called our verification playlist, which is just a really quick document that walks you through the exact things you need to have ready to actually get verified. You do not wanna mess this part up. Verification is one of those things that Google can either take weeks and screw up your business, or it takes a couple of days and it's really easy. Follow the guide. For the address, all we have to do here is click this. You're going to click show business address to customers. That's, you telling Google that you want to be recognized. You're going to type in your address exactly as it shows on your business documentation and click save. Now, when you do this, Google's going to kind of pause. Either it's going to instantly verify and you're good to go, or you're going to get an email in a couple of minutes that says, please verify your profile. Third, your phone number. The phone number is a pretty important way that people contact you. So making sure we get this point right, it's kind of more complicated than I wish it was. When it comes to phone numbers, you have 2 choices. The first choice is just to use your personal phone number. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this option. First, because it's a security risk. Second, it's your personal phone number being all over the internet, so security and annoying. The thing that I'd recommend you do is either get a Google Voice number or a second phone number just to put on as like your work phone number. Most of you already have this, but I just wanted to make sure that if you don't have this, now is the time to potentially invest like $1 a month into what's called a Google Voice number. If you don't have one of those things, it's so easy to set up and it'll save you a lot of pain in the future, because then for all of your different things you do for this business, whether it's a stand-up V sign outside of a job, or you're putting out flyers or hosting a town market or giving your phone number out to potential clients, you never have to share the phone number that leads people directly to you and your family. You can always focus on a Google Voice number that has that extra layer of protection and is much easier to market. Now, once you pick a phone number, all you have to do is be consistent. So it has to be the phone number we use to sign up for your business. You can change that in your state's directory. It has to be the phone number you use for all of your accounts. It has to be the phone number you use on the Google business profile. Just make sure that once you pick a phone number that it's consistent everywhere. If you have multiple phone numbers on the internet for you when it comes to your business, Google gets confused and it's going to prevent you from getting results. So that's why I include it at this moment. It's always good to have a separate phone number for your business. Fourth, reviews. Reviews are one of those things that almost every single business owner knows is important. And frankly, that doesn't change on whatever business you're in. You'll notice that when I started this video, I talked about 3 or 4 clients that I helped. And just like when you're on a sales call or you're giving an estimate to a potential lead, it's also good to talk about the other jobs that you've done similar to this one. However, reviews on the Google business profile are essentially the most important thing you can do. Reviews help you in 2 ways. They help you get the customer in terms of how many reviews you have, and they help you get ranking in terms of how often you get reviews. And those 2 things are called review volume and review velocity. Review volume is as easy as it sounds. It's just how many reviews you have. Now, the reason why this is important is, let's say that I wave my magic wand and bippity boppity boo, you're now ranked top 3 in your local market, all the wonderful things you've been cold called about. Well, getting ranked is only half the battle. The other half is actually getting picked. So let's say you, Mr. Remodeling Company, have 1 Google review and everybody else in your market has 50. Now let's say I rank you in the top 3. Who do you think my wife, who's looking for a kitchen remodel, is going to pick? The guy with 50 reviews or the guy with 1? Now, I wish with all my heart that this were not the case. But unfortunately, human behavior dictates that people are going to pick the people with the most-ish reviews. And you might be ranked high, but that doesn't necessarily mean that customers are going to pick you. You still have to be attractive. You have to be a choice that's going to make them feel like, oh yes, this person is going to take care of my tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in remodeling the right way. So that's what review volume does. Review volume has very little to do with ranking and everything to do with the customer actually picking you. So when it comes to getting reviews, always keep it as a focus, and I want you to be very specific in terms of how many you have, and this is more just for your mental expectation. If you want leads from Google and in your local market there's people with thousands, you now know what it's going to take. Get moving. The second thing about reviews that a lot of people forget is the portion that has to do with ranking. Now, Google made this change a couple of years ago where Google didn't care as much about the volume of reviews as they did the velocity, or rather how often you get them. And the reason why they did this is that there were a bunch of fat and lazy business owners that had like a bajillion reviews because they've just been open for decades. And these new startup owners that were technically running better businesses and doing better work, well, the new startup owners should be ranked higher, right? So instead of these fat and lazy businesses that no longer get reviews anymore, instead of them being ranked at the top, now you'll start to see some lower reviewed companies climbing the ranks because they're getting more frequent reviews. So when it comes to getting reviews, that's how you can think about it, is how many do I have, which is, getting customers to actually call you, and how many do you get frequently, which is getting the ranking portion. Getting reviews is annoying and complicated and frustrating. It's so painful because you have to kind of provide enough value for a customer to feel confident leaving you a review. And then you actually have to get that customer who lives their own busy life to leave you a review. So if this has been a challenge for your business, also included in what we did here is give you a full breakdown of our review strategy. Now, review strategies, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about some AI robot that's going to send really cool text messages to get you reviews. You're getting cold called about that every day. And the reason why you haven't responded very well to those cold calls, and the reason why those systems don't work in the remodeling category, is just think about it for a second. You just completed a $200,000 custom kitchen remodel, and you're going to rely on a text message to get a review? No. The big thing we want to do with these customers that are, big, high ticket, really quality jobs, we want to show personalization. We want to be human. So we teach you when to ask, what to say, and how to get these reviews in a way that's not only helpful for the customer, but is going to increase the odds they actually leave the review for you. So if that is important, check your email, it should be in there, or just click the link here and you should be able to get that review guide downloaded.
We've talked about how reviews are important, and I don't want to kick that dead horse. What I do want to do is just take a second to show you some of the nifty little tricks that Google has given you as a business owner to help you get more reviews. You don't need some fancy software to do this. It's literally on your Google Business Profile. So when you log into your Google Business Profile, there's two things that have to do with reviews. There's the read reviews and there's the ask for reviews. The first one we can click on is read reviews. And this is just you as a business owner. You can pull this up and respond to reviews. So for example, this is someone that I gave an audit to. She said that I was helpful. And then I pulled up this little section and I typed in, "Thank you for the kind words, Phyllis. It means a lot." And then I responded to the review. That response is what tells Google that I'm an active business owner. So when you click on this little section right here that says read reviews, super helpful. You can scroll down and actually just respond to all these reviews that came through. The second thing I want you to see on this screen is the ask for the review button. Now, this is the thing that like all these big expensive softwares don't want you to know. There are two things right here that are just really valuable. The first thing is your review link. This link is what you can send people in an email and a text message to get more reviews. So if you ever like ask a customer for a review for through a text message, or you call someone and they agree to leave you a review, you can text them right then, send them an email. This link is how you can get a review from them. And even better, if you're going to make some business cards, or maybe you're doing some shirts for your team, or maybe for your own hat or for your own shirt, I heavily recommend putting this little QR code on it. So all you have to do is right click and select Save Image As, and this is your private QR code. And when you scan this, it'll pop up with a little thing that says leave a review. So for example, I right click this, I press Save Image As, and then it saves the image to so I'd name this like Maps Machine QR code. And now I've got this little QR code that I can click, and this is how a customer would leave a little review for me. I can add that to business cards, anywhere, my website. You can add that anywhere to ask for a review. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew exactly where to get these things. Again, read reviews is where you respond to reviews. Ask for reviews is where you get your QR code and your link so you can actually get more of these reviews coming in.
So what we've gone through today is a full Google Business Profile build out. And I want to be clear that this has been exhaustive. I haven't held anything back. There is no magic SEO that you have to do. There is no magic thing you have to buy off of Fiverr or pay some agency to do. This is complete. You now have a niched down Google Business Profile that is correctly verified with an address. And more importantly, you now know exactly how to get reviews behind that category to help you build your entire local presence behind that niche. That's all it takes. And if you actually implement these things, I know you're going to get so many results, because it's the exact thing that has led to all of my clients actually getting real remodeling leads. So I want to make sure that you understand that everything that we've built today, or everything that hopefully you now know how to build, that you actually will go and implement. I know that life gets super busy, and maybe these things will quickly fall on the wayside as you head off to your next job. But what we're talking about here is maybe an afternoon worth of work that you can sit down, crush out, and actually see real results. Now, if working on the Google Business Profile and marketing just isn't your thing, and you don't want to do this all, but you think that this strategy could work, and you're interested in working with my team, we can do this entire thing for you. Just click below and book a time and see if you're a good fit for what we do. Again, we're an aggressive strategy company. We're not just going to click buttons and then walk away. We're going to walk you through each individual decision that we're making and help you understand why we're making those decisions. And that's really the big difference between the 15 people that are cold calling you and a strategy that's actually going to bring you lead flow. So again, if that sounds interesting, just click below and apply, and my team will reach out and see if you're a good fit. No pressure. If you want more information on how this actual strategy works, and if you just want more information about general marketing stuff when it comes to local remodeling companies, we post all the time on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Just go check your local platform. We're there under Maps Machine or Ben Maps Machine. And the reason why we do that is we want to keep you in the loop so that you don't have to worry about what's working and what's not working. You can just always go to our profiles and know how to make actual results start coming in. If you made it to the end of this video, clearly you're serious about getting results for your remodeling company. And there's generally 3 ways you can do that. You can implement what we've talked about today. You can call my team and actually see if we can help you, or you can get more information by following me on my other socials. Any of those options are great. I just want to welcome you to the community and thank you for staying to the end. See you there.